Story 1: A Quiet Life by Wax and Flame. You wake before the bells, not because you have to, but because your body has learned the shape of the morning. The light hasn't reached the window yet. The room is still dim, colored in soft gray and shadow. The air smells faintly of cooled wax and old wood, a smell that never fully leaves your clothes. You lie still for a moment, listening. Below you, the shop is quiet. Stone holds the night's chill. Somewhere far off, a gull calls once and then goes silent again. Old Town is already awake in its own slow way, but on this narrow street, nothing moves yet. You sit up, feet touching the wooden floor, and the boards give their familiar creak. You pull on your clothes, simple, worn, comfortable, and move toward the ladder that leads down into the shop. Each rung knows your weight. Downstairs, the candle workshop waits exactly as you left it. The long table runs the length of the room, its surface marked by years of careful work. Shelves line the walls, stacked with beeswax bricks, coils of wick half-finished candles resting in wooden molds. Nothing is out of place. You take a moment before lighting the fire. You always do. Then you kneel and strike the flint. A spark, then another. The tinder catches slowly, and you feed it until the flame steadies. The room warms a little, not much, just enough. As the fire settles, you set the kettle nearby. It doesn't need watching yet. You move around the room, opening the shutters a hand's width to let in the early air. The sky outside is pale, neither night nor day. Wax comes next. You choose a block without thinking, cutting it into smaller pieces. The knife makes a dull sound as it works. You drop the pieces into the pot and set it above the fire. Soon, the faint smell of honey and warmth begins to rise. You wait. Waiting is most of the work. As the wax melts, you prepare the wicks, laying them straight, trimming the ends. Your hands move in practiced rhythm. You don't rush. There is no need to rush. The day will be long enough without it. Outside, footsteps pass once. Someone heading toward the harbor. Someone else opens a door farther down the street. Old Town stretches itself awake slowly, without hurry. When the wax is ready, you lift the pot carefully. You pour in steady streams, filling mold after mold. The sound is soft, almost soothing. You don't spill. You rarely do. You set the molds aside to cool. Then you sweep the floor, even though it doesn't need it. The broom moves in wide arcs. Dust lifts and settles. The room feels complete again. By the time the bells ring, the shop is warm and bright enough to work by. You take a piece of bread from the shelf, tearing it in half, and eat slowly. The bread is plain, it always is. A knock comes at the door. You open it to let in the morning. The knock comes again, gentle, unhurried. You cross the shop and lift the latch. Morning light spills in fully now, pale and cool. A baker's boy stands there, arms wrapped around a basket, steam rising faintly from beneath the cloth. "Morning," he says, the words stretching like a yawn. You nod and step aside. He comes in, sets the basket on the counter without ceremony. Inside are rolls, still warm, the crusts cracked just enough. You trade a small bundle of stub candles for them. No words are needed beyond that. You've done this exchange so many times that it feels older than either of you. When he leaves, the shop feels fuller somehow. Warmer. You eat one of the rolls slowly, standing by the table as the candles cool. You turn them once, carefully, checking the wicks. Everything looks right. It usually does. The morning passes in quiet segments. A woman from the next street comes in for lamp candles. A Meister's assistant picks up a bundle wrapped in cloth, careful not to look hurried. You speak little but enough. No one lingers. No one ever does. Between customers, you sit on the stool by the window and trim wicks. Outside, the street brightens. Shadows shorten. Somewhere nearby, a hammer taps against stone. Somewhere else, water sloshes in a bucket. At midday, the shop grows still again. You eat the rest of the bread, wipe your hands, and step outside. The door stays open behind you. Nothing will happen to the shop. Nothing ever does. You walk toward the harbor, not for a reason, just because it's what you do when the sun is high. The streets are warm now, the stones holding heat. Old Town smells faintly of salt and parchment and baking grain. At the docks, ships rest in the water unmoving. Sails hang loose. Men sit and mend nets. Someone hums badly and no one tells him to stop. You lean against a post and watch the water lap against the wood. Time stretches. The sun shifts. Eventually, without thinking about it, you turn back. The afternoon is slower than the morning. You pour another batch of wax. You rearrange finished candles on the shelves. You sweep again. You sit. You stand. You wait. When the light begins to change, you close the shutters halfway. The room softens. Shadows grow longer, gentler. You light a single candle and place it near the door. Evening customers are few. A pair of sailors. A woman buying one candle, just one, wrapped carefully. You wish her a quiet night without saying the words. When the street outside dims, you bar the door. Upstairs, the loft waits. You climb the ladder, step into the small room, a narrow bed, a chair, a table. The window open just enough to let in air. The city hums faintly below, distant and steady. You sit on the bed and listen. A bell rings far away. Another answers it. Somewhere, laughter rises and fades. Somewhere else, a door closes. Nothing requires you now. You lie down, the candlelight flickering softly against the wall. Your breath slows without effort. Tomorrow will be the same. That thought carries no weight. It never has. The flame steadies. The room warms. Old Town settles around you like a well-worn blanket. You let your eyes close while the candle burns low and the night continues exactly as it should. The candle flame shortens, the wick bending in on itself as wax pools and hardens again. You lie still, eyes closed but not asleep yet. The mattress creaks softly when you shift your weight. Outside the open window, Old Town breathes, not loudly, just enough to be noticed if you listen for it. Somewhere below, a cart rolls over stone, the wheels uneven, the sound fading gradually as it turns a corner. A door closes. Another opens. Voices drift up briefly and then dissolve into the air. The candle gives a small pop. You open your eyes long enough to reach out and pinch the flame. Smoke curls upward, thin and gray, carrying the smell of warm wax. Darkness fills the room, but it's not complete. Moonlight presses faintly through the window, laying a pale stripe across the floor. You lie back again. Sleep comes slowly, the way it always does. It doesn't rush you. It waits until your breathing settles into something steady, until your thoughts loosen and stop arranging themselves into words. When you wake again, it isn't sudden. Light has changed. Morning finds its way into the room quietly, turning the stripe on the floor from silver to pale gold. You don't move at first. You listen. The same sounds return, altered slightly. Gulls closer now. The distant bell. Footsteps beginning their familiar pattern below. You sit up. The floor is cool under your feet. The ladder creaks in the same place it always does when you descend. Downstairs, the shop smells faintly of yesterday's work. Wax, ash, wood, everything is as you left it. You open the shutters fully this time, letting the morning in without restraint. The day begins again. You set the fire, you set the kettle, you cut wax. Time passes in pieces so small they barely deserve names. You melt. You pour, you wait. The molds fill the table. The room warms gradually, stone giving up its chill. A customer comes in mid-morning, a woman you recognize by her hands more than her face. She asks for the same size candles she always buys. You wrap them the same way. She thanks you the same way. She leaves. Another hour slides by. You sit on the stool by the door and watch dust drift through the light. Each speck moves slowly, without purpose. You follow one until it disappears. At midday, you close the shutters halfway again and eat in the quiet. Bread. Cheese this time, traded yesterday for a bundle of tapers. You chew slowly, leaning against the table. Outside, the city hums, but it never intrudes. Old Town knows how to mind itself. In the afternoon, you carry finished candles upstairs to store them. The loft smells different than the shop, less wax, more cloth and wood. You stack them carefully, aligning them without thinking. Straight lines, even spacing, you pause by the window. From here, you can see rooftops sloping toward the harbor. Masts rise above them, thin as needles. The water catches light in broken fragments. Ships drift, barely moving. You stay there longer than necessary. Eventually, you return downstairs. The afternoon stretches. You reheat wax, you adjust wicks, you trim, you sweep, you sit. A pair of children pass the open door, laughing. One stumbles. The other helps him up. They disappear down the street. Later, a man you don't know asks for a candle for travel. You choose one that will burn long and steady. He nods once and leaves. As evening approaches, the light shifts again. The room softens. You light the lamp near the counter. Shadows deepen in the corners but don't threaten. You close the shop at the same time you always do. Outside, Old Town settles into dusk. The air cools. Lanterns bloom along the streets one by one. You walk without hurry, hands folded behind your back, following the same route you've followed for years. At the harbor, water moves gently against the pilings. A fisherman coils rope. Another untangles a net. Someone sits on the edge of the dock with their feet dangling, not fishing, just resting. You stand and watch until the sky darkens fully. When you return, the street is quiet. You lock the door. You climb the ladder. You light another candle. Upstairs, the night resumes its shape. You sit on the bed. You listen. You breathe. Nothing presses in on you. Nothing waits. Tomorrow will come whether you think about it or not. You lie down. The candle flickers. Shadows sway softly along the wall, slow and unhurried. As your eyes close, Old Town remains awake in its own careful way, keeping watch without asking anything of you at all. The candle burns lower, the wick curling in on itself as melted wax gathers and hardens again in slow, uneven rings. You don't move when it finally gutters out. Darkness settles naturally, like something returning to where it belongs. The room is never fully black. Old Town never allows that. Moonlight presses faintly through the window, laying soft angles across the floor, touching the edge of the table, the side of the bed. Your breathing evens out. Sleep arrives not all at once, but in layers. The first is simply rest, muscles loosening. The second is quiet, when the sounds of the city stop asking for your attention. The third comes last, when thought fades into something shapeless and unimportant. When morning comes, it does not wake you abruptly. It waits. Light changes first, then sound. A gull cries somewhere close, answered by another farther away. A cart rolls over stone. A door opens below, wood against wood, familiar as a remembered phrase. You open your eyes. The room is cool again. You sit up, run a hand over your face, and stand. The floor meets your feet exactly as expected. You descend the ladder, pausing on the third rung where it always creaks. Downstairs, the shop holds the night stillness for a moment longer before you disturb it. You open the shutters. Morning spills in, pale and gentle. Dust wakes and floats. You strike the flint. The fire answers. It always does. The kettle goes on. Wax is cut. The knife makes the same dull sound against the block. The pot warms. The smell returns. This is how days begin. Hours pass without marking themselves. You pour wax into molds, your hands steady, your attention loose but precise. You don't count the candles. You know when it's enough by how the table fills. A woman stops by mid-morning, asking for tapers. You recognize her voice more than her face. She speaks softly, as if the shop itself prefers it that way. You wrap the candles carefully. She thanks you and leaves. The door closes. The room exhales. You sit by the window and trim wicks. Outside, sunlight climbs the stone walls across the street. Someone sweeps their own doorway. Someone else carries a basket, humming quietly, the tune unfinished. At midday, you eat slowly. Bread again. A piece of fruit this time, traded last week. Juice runs over your fingers. You wipe them on a cloth and continue eating. The afternoon stretches long and thin. You step outside for a moment, letting the warmth reach your face. The street is calm. No one looks hurried. Old Town has learned patience over centuries. When you return, the shop feels smaller, somehow cozier. You light a lamp, though the sun hasn't fully faded yet. You like how the flame looks against the stone. A man enters, asking for a single candle, just one. You choose one that burns evenly. He nods once, serious, and goes. You wonder briefly where he's going, then let the thought dissolve. Evening arrives without ceremony. You close the shutters. You bar the door. You sweep the floor one last time, slow and thorough, even beneath the table. The broom's rhythm is familiar enough that you barely notice it. Upstairs, the loft welcomes you back. You set a candle on the table and sit beside it, not yet ready to lie down. The flame wavers slightly when a breeze slips through the window. You listen. Old Town speaks softly at night. Footsteps, distant laughter, the creak of rope somewhere near the harbor. All of it blends into a low, steady presence like breathing. You lie down eventually. The bed accepts your weight. The candle burns down gradually. You watch the flame until it blurs and doubles. Sleep comes again. The days repeat, not exactly, but close enough that they feel like echoes of one another. Work, light, warmth, rest. The shop fills and empties. The harbor shifts. The seasons hint at change without ever insisting on it. One evening, rain arrives. You hear it first, a soft tapping on stone, then a steady whisper. You open the door briefly to smell it. The street darkens, slick and shining. You close the door again and light the lamps earlier than usual. The shop feels especially safe with the rain outside. The fire's warmth presses closer. The wax smells sweeter somehow. You work more slowly, letting the hours stretch. When night deepens, you climb upstairs and lie listening to the rain strike the roof. Each drop lands and disappears. Nothing lingers, nothing demands. Your eyes close. The candle flickers. The rain continues. And Old Town keeps on being exactly what it is: steady, uneventful, and quietly enough to let you sleep. Story 2: A Quiet Life in the Reach. You wake to the sound of bees. Not the angry buzzing of a disturbed hive, but the gentle, drowsy hum that drifts through your open window on warm currents of air. The sound mingles with birdsong, larks, you think, though you've never been particularly good at identifying them. Your sister Mara would know. She knows all the birds, can tell you which ones mate for life and which ones build their nests in the eaves. You stretch beneath your quilts, feeling the pleasant ache of muscles well used but not overworked. The morning light filters through the gauzy curtains, turning everything in your small room a soft golden color. Dust motes dance in the sunbeams, and you watch them for a moment, letting yourself surface slowly from sleep. Your room is small but comfortable. The walls are whitewashed stone, cool even in summer, and your bed is positioned to catch the morning sun in winter and the evening breeze in summer. There's a chest at the foot of your bed, painted with flowering vines that your mother did when you were small. A simple wooden chair sits by the window, draped with the clothes you'll wear today. A shelf holds a few precious books, a herbal, a collection of children's tales, and a history of the Reach that's missing its back cover. The floors are worn smooth by generations of feet, and someone, probably your mother, has already been in to lay out a rug woven in the colors of autumn: amber, rust, and deep brown. You wiggle your toes against it as you sit up, savoring the texture. From downstairs, you hear the comfortable sounds of morning, the clatter of pottery, your father's low voice probably greeting the cats, the scrape of a chair. Your younger brother Petter singing tunelessly to himself. He's always been an early riser, cheerful from the moment he opens his eyes in a way that you've never quite managed. You stand and move to the wash basin, pouring water from the pitcher. It's cool and smells faintly of the mint that grows wild near the well. You splash your face, gasping a little at the temperature, and use the rough cloth to pat yourself dry. There's a small-looking glass, a luxury, really, something your father brought back from a trip to Old Town 3 years ago, and you peer into it. You look like yourself. Sleep-rumpled hair, a small scar on your chin from when you fell out of a tree at 8 years old, eyes that match your mother's. Nothing remarkable, nothing special. Just you, another morning, another day in Honeyholt. The name of the town is almost embarrassingly quaint, but you've lived here all your life and it suits the place. Honeyholt is tucked into a gentle valley in the Reach, far from the great cities and far from the roads where armies march. It's a town of beekeepers and orchardists, of small farms and quiet industry. The local Lord Beesbury of Honeyholt proper, whose keep rises on the hill above the town, is said to be fair and steady, though you've only seen him a handful of times in your life. You dress in simple clothes, a linen shift, a wool dress dyed a soft brown, an apron that ties at the waist. Sturdy shoes that you've had resoled twice. Nothing fancy, but everything clean and mended. Your mother insists on mending, says there's no excuse for walking around with torn hems when needle and thread exist in the world. As you run a comb through your hair, working out the tangles with practiced patience, you think about the day ahead. It's the 5th day of the week, which means market day in the town square. Your mother will want you to come help mind the stall, selling the honey and beeswax products that your family produces. Your father keeps the hives, dozens of them in the orchards that surround your home, and your mother transforms their bounty into candles, soaps, and salves that people come from neighboring villages to buy. You braid your hair simply, nothing fancy, and tie it off with a scrap of ribbon. Then you make your bed, smoothing the quilts and fluffing the pillows stuffed with wool and dried lavender. Your mother taught you this habit young. Start the day with order, she'd say, and order has a way of following you through it. The stairs creak as you descend. The third one from the top always does, a comfortable sound that announces your arrival. The lower floor of your home is a single large room divided by purpose rather than walls. The kitchen area is to the left, where your mother is already working, her hands busy kneading dough for the day's bread. The living area is to the right, with comfortable chairs arranged around the hearth, though no fire burns there now in the warmth of late summer. "Morning," your mother says without looking up. She has flour on her nose, and her hair, dark like yours but threaded with silver, is already escaping from its knot. There's porridge keeping warm. Eat before it gets cold. You obey, ladling a generous portion into a wooden bowl and drizzling it with honey. There's always honey in your house, of course. You add a handful of nuts that have been toasted and a sprinkling of dried fruit. The porridge is creamy and sweet and perfect, and you eat standing up at the kitchen table, watching your mother work. "Where's Father?" you ask between bites. "The hives, where else?" But she's smiling as she says it. Your father loves his bees with a devotion that might seem strange to outsiders, but is simply how things are in your family. He talks to them, says they're smarter than most people give them credit for. And in truth, your family's bees do seem to thrive under his care. Petter tumbles in from outside, grass stains on his knees, and a beetle cupped carefully in his hands. He's 10 years old, all elbows and enthusiasm, and currently obsessed with insects of all kinds. "Look," he announces, "it's a stag beetle. See the mandibles." You lean in dutifully to admire the beetle, which does indeed have impressive mandibles. "Very nice. Are you going to let it go?" "After breakfast. I want to draw it first." Your mother points the end of her rolling pin at him. "Wash your hands, and that beetle lives outside, Petter, outside." "I know, Mama." But he's already at the wash basin, scrubbing hastily so he can get to his precious beetle drawing. You finish your porridge and wash your bowl, setting it on the rack to dry. The kitchen smells of yeast and honey and the herbs that hang in bunches from the rafters. Rosemary, thyme, sage, and others you'd have to get closer to identify. Your mother is a practical woman, but she has her vanities, and one of them is her herb garden. She grows varieties that aren't strictly necessary for cooking or medicine, growing them simply because she likes the way they smell or the color of their flowers. "I'll need you at the market by mid-morning," your mother says, shaping the dough into loaves. "But for now, if you want to gather some lavender, the bees are done with those plants for the year, and we could use more for sachets." You nod. Gathering lavender is pleasant work, exactly the sort of task that suits a morning like this. "I'll go now, then." "Take a basket, the big one." You collect the basket from its hook by the door. It's made of woven willow, sturdy and deep, and step out into the morning. Part 2, the lavender field. The world outside is golden with late summer. The sun is still low enough that everything glows, and the air has that particular quality of warmth that promises a hot day ahead but hasn't yet delivered on the threat. You can hear the bees already, their hum rising from the hives at the far end of the property, and somewhere a rooster crows belatedly, as if just remembering its duty. Your family's home sits on the edge of Honeyholt proper, where the town begins to give way to the farmland and orchards that sustain it. You have 2 acres, maybe a bit more, enough for the garden, the hives, a small orchard of apple and pear trees, and the various plants your father cultivates for the bees. The lavender field is at the southern edge of the property, where the land slopes gently toward the stream that marks the boundary. You walk the familiar path, basket swinging at your side. The grass is still slightly damp with dew, and it dampens the hem of your dress. You'll have to remember to change before market. Your mother would notice grass-stained hems immediately and give you that look of patient disappointment that's somehow worse than anger. The lavender field is exactly what it sounds like. 10 rows of lavender plants, each bush grown thick and woody at the base, crowned now with dried flowers. Your father planted them 5 years ago, and they've thrived in the sunny spot. Earlier in the summer, they were a breathtaking purple, vivid and fragrant, drawing bees from what seemed like miles away. Now they've faded to gray-purple, their essential oils concentrated, perfect for harvesting. You set down your basket and begin. The work is repetitive and soothing. Grasp a stem, cut it close to the base with the small knife you've brought, gather a handful, cut another, and so on until you have enough to tie into a bundle. The bundles go into the basket, arranged carefully so as not to crush them. The smell rises around you, sweet, herbal, clean. Lavender has always made you think of sleep, of peaceful dreams, of your grandmother who died when you were 12 and whose pillows always smelled of this exact scent. She'd been a weaver, your grandmother, and had terrible insomnia in her later years. The lavender helped, your mother said, though not enough. You work steadily, falling into the rhythm of it. Cut, gather, bundle, cut, gather, bundle. Your mind wanders as your hands stay busy, which is one of the things you like about this sort of work. It leaves you free to think, to dream, to let your thoughts drift where they will. You think about the book you've been reading, The History of the Reach. It's dry stuff, mostly, accounts of harvests and taxes, the genealogies of noble houses, trade agreements between this lord and that. But there are moments of interest scattered throughout. Stories of great tournaments, of marriages that united rival houses, of a particularly harsh winter 60 years ago when the people of Honeyholt had to survive on stored honey and not much else. You think about your sister Mara, who's married now and lives in a village 2 days' ride away. She writes letters, and you write back, but it's not the same as having her near. You miss the way she laughed, the way she could make a story out of nothing, the way she knew exactly how to comfort you when you were sad. Her last letter said she was pregnant, due in winter. You'll be an aunt. The thought is strange and wonderful. You think about nothing in particular. The way the light falls, the sound of bees, the distant bleat of a goat from someone else's property. The way your knife needs sharpening, you can feel it in the resistance as you cut, the blade just slightly duller than it should be. Time passes. The basket fills. The sun climbs higher, and the morning's coolness gives way to warmth. You wipe your forehead with the back of your hand, careful not to touch your face with the hand holding the knife, and survey your work. The basket is nearly full, bundles of lavender arranged in neat layers. It'll be enough for several dozen sachets at least, plus material for one of your mother's lavender honey soaps, which sell particularly well at market. You're about to cut one more bundle when you hear footsteps behind you. You turn and see your father approaching, his familiar figure silhouetted against the morning sun. He's a tall man, your father, lean and weathered from years of outdoor work, with a beard that's gone more gray than brown and eyes that crinkle at the corners from decades of squinting into the sun. "Good harvest?" he asks, nodding at your basket. "Very. The plants are healthy." "That they are. The bees did well by them this year." He squats down beside you, his knees cracking slightly. He always jokes that his body keeps track of the years even if his mind doesn't. He touches one of the lavender stalks gently, almost reverently. "Your mother's planting has a wisdom to it, knew just where to put these." You smile. Your parents have been married nearly 30 years, and your father still speaks of your mother with this quiet admiration, as if she's somehow extraordinary even though she's just a practical woman who keeps bees and makes soap. But perhaps that's love, you think, seeing the extraordinariness in the ordinary. "How are the hives?" you ask. "Good, good. The late summer flow is winding down, but we'll have one more harvest before they settle in for autumn. Strong colonies, all of them. They'll winter well." He pauses, then adds, "The hive by the old oak is throwing off extra drones, though. Might split in spring if we're not careful." You nod, though you only half understand. Your father has tried to teach you and your siblings about beekeeping, but while Petter has taken to it with enthusiasm, you've never quite developed the feel for it. You can help with harvesting honey, with processing wax, but the subtle signs of hive health, the decisions about when to split a colony or requeen or add supers, that's your father's expertise, earned over a lifetime. "Your mother will have you at market soon," he says, standing with another crack of his knees. "Best finish up here and get changed. And remember to shake your dress before you go inside. Last thing we need is bringing all the lavender debris into the house." "I know, Papa." He smiles and ruffles your hair like you're still a child, even though you're 23 and well past the age for such gestures. But you don't mind. It's comforting in its way to still be someone's child. He walks back toward the hives, and you return to your cutting. One more bundle, then two, then a third for good measure. The basket is full now, heavy with the harvest, and you feel the pleasant satisfaction of a task completed well. You carry the basket back toward the house, pausing as your father instructed to shake your dress and apron vigorously, sending bits of lavender and dust flying. The morning is warmer now, the promise of heat beginning to fulfill itself, and you can feel the first prickle of sweat on your back. Inside, your mother has finished the bread, and it's set to rise in its usual spot near the window. She's moved on to some other task. There's always another task, and barely looks up as you bring the basket in. "On the table," she says. "We'll bundle them proper later." You set the basket down and go to change. Your room is warmer now, the morning sun having worked its way across to your window, and you're grateful for the coolness of fresh linen as you change into clean clothes. Another simple dress, this one a faded blue and a clean apron. You rebraid your hair, checking in the little mirror to make sure you look presentable for market. When you come back down, your mother is loading a cart with the goods you'll sell today. Jars of honey in different varieties, wildflower, lavender, apple, blossom, each carefully labeled in your mother's neat hand. Beeswax candles in various sizes, from little votives to thick pillars that will burn for hours. Soaps wrapped in cloth and tied with string. Salves for everything from cracked hands to insect bites. Small pots of beeswax balm that people use on their lips in winter. It's an impressive array, the result of months of work. Looking at it, you feel a surge of pride. Your family makes good things, useful things, things that make people's lives a little better. "Help me load the rest," your mother says, and together you finish packing the cart. It's a small wooden cart, painted green years ago and now faded and worn but still sturdy. Your father built it himself, reinforcing the wheels so they could handle the cobblestones in town. Petter appears, beetle-less now but covered in charcoal dust from his drawing. "Can I come to market?" "If you wash your face and hands until they're actually clean, not just what you think clean is," your mother says. "And you'll help mind the stall, no running off to look at every person selling birds or trinkets." "I promise." He's already at the wash basin again, scrubbing with vigor. Your mother looks at you. "Ready?" You nod. "Ready." And so you set out for market, pulling the little cart between you, your mother on one handle, you on the other, with Petter skipping ahead and then circling back and then running ahead again, his energy seemingly inexhaustible. Part 3. Market Day. The road into town is well-traveled, packed earth worn smooth by countless feet and cartwheels. Others are heading to market 2 farmers with vegetables, a man leading a cow, a woman with baskets of eggs balanced on a yoke across her shoulders. Everyone calls greetings as you pass, and your mother responds to each, asking after children and parents, offering condolences for a death you hadn't heard about, congratulating someone on a daughter's betrothal. Your mother knows everyone. This is her gift, you think, not just the keeping of bees or the making of soap, but this web of connection, this knowledge of who is related to whom and who needs a kind word and who's going through a difficult time. She collects people's stories the way some people collect coins, and she spends them wisely, offering the right word at the right moment. Honey Holt proper reveals itself gradually. First, the outlying farms give way to more closely built cottages. Then the road widens and becomes a proper street, cobblestones replacing packed earth. Buildings press closer together, most of them whitewashed stone with thatched roofs, though some of the wealthier establishments have tiles. You pass the smithy, where you can hear the ring of hammer on anvil and feel the heat from the forge even from the street. The cooper's shop, with barrels stacked outside. The weaver's establishment, where beautiful fabrics hang in the windows. And then the market square opens up before you. It's not a grand space. Honey Holt isn't a grand town, but it's pleasant and practical. The square is paved with irregular stones that have settled into comfortable patterns over the years. In the center stands the town well, with its peaked roof and the worn rope hanging from the wooden wheel. Around the edges of the square, stalls and blankets are already being set up, sellers claiming their usual spots and arranging their wares. Your mother heads for your family's usual location, a spot near the well where you'll have the benefit of foot traffic. Together, you set up the stall, which is really just a long table with a cloth over it and an awning to provide shade. Your mother has a system, and you know it well by now. Honey jars in the center where they'll catch the eye, candles arranged by size on the left, soaps and salves on the right. A small sign your father painted listing prices. Petter's job is to stand at the corner and call out to passers-by, which he does with enthusiasm if not always with skill. "Honey, candles, best in Honey Holt." His voice hasn't changed yet, and it carries well, though it occasionally cracks in a way that makes you suppress a smile. The market fills around you. A baker sets up across the way, the smell of fresh bread making your mouth water even though you ate not long ago. A farmer spreads out vegetables on a blanket, carrots, onions, cabbages, bunches of herbs. Someone is selling chickens, which cluck and flutter in their cages. A tinker displays pots and pans and knives, calling out that he'll sharpen blades while you wait. And people come. That's the magic of market day. The way a quiet town suddenly feels alive, everyone emerging from their houses and workshops to buy and sell and gossip, and see who's courting whom and hear the latest news from travelers. Your mother is in her element, greeting customers with genuine warmth, explaining the properties of different honeys, recommending the lavender soap for someone with dry skin, haggling good-naturedly over prices. You help where you can, wrapping purchases, making change from the coin box, answering questions about how long a candle will burn or what's in a particular salve. A woman buys honey and mentions that her son is sick, nothing serious but a cough that won't quit. Your mother adds a small jar of honey mixed with thyme and hyssop, refusing payment. For the boy, she says firmly, make sure he has a spoonful before bed. The woman's eyes get bright with tears. That's very kind. Not at all. Tell me how he fares next week. This happens several times, your mother giving small gifts, adding extra to purchases, refusing payment for this or that. You used to worry about this, about whether the family could afford such generosity, but your father once explained it to you. She's not giving away profits, he'd said. She's investing in something more valuable than coin. Trust, goodwill. People remember kindness and they return it in their own ways. And it's true. Someone brings by a basket of apples for the household, just extras from our tree. Someone else mentions they've saved good willow withes for basket making whenever your husband needs them. A woman pays for a candle and then, almost as an afterthought, adds, "My husband hunted a deer last week. I'll send some venison by later." The morning wears on. The sun climbs higher and the square grows warmer. You drink water from the dipper at the well, the water cool and sweet. Petter abandons his post to look at the chickens, but your mother just shakes her head fondly and lets him go. You're wrapping a purchase of soap, the lavender one, as predicted, selling well, when you become aware of a commotion at the edge of the square. Voices raised, not in anger exactly, but in excitement. People craning their necks to see something. "What is it?" you ask the customer, an older woman whose name you don't know but whose face is familiar. "Travelers, I think. Knights, maybe? Hard to tell." Knights are rare in Honeyhold. You're too far from the main roads, too small to warrant attention from lordly types making their way between castles. The most exciting visitor you've had in recent memory was a merchant from Old Town who bought 3 dozen candles at once. Your mother has noticed too, and she's frowning slightly. Not worried exactly, but cautious. People from outside can mean news, and news isn't always good. But then the crowd parts and you see them, not knights exactly, but armed men certainly. 3 of them, wearing boiled leather and carrying spears, escorting a cart piled with goods. And walking alongside the cart, a man in the robes of a maester. Well, not quite a maester. An acolyte, you think, noting the single link on his chain. They make their way to the center of the square, and the man in robes, young, perhaps not much older than you, with dark hair and tired eyes, climbs up onto the edge of the well so he can be seen and heard. "Good people of Honeyhold," he calls out. His voice is educated, the accent of the citadel. "I bring news from the citadel and from your lord at Honeyholt Keep." The square falls quiet. Even the chickens seem to hush. There has been an outbreak of gray plague in several towns along the coast. It has not reached here, and the Meisters believe it will not, as the season is turning toward autumn and the plague thrives in summer heat. However, as a precaution, Lord Beesbury has requested that the Citadel provide information on preventative measures and remedies. He goes on, explaining in careful detail the symptoms of gray plague, which you've heard of but never seen, and the treatments that have proven most effective. He talks about the importance of clean water, of disposing of waste properly, of keeping the sick separate from the healthy. It's all very measured and sensible, and you can feel the tension in the square ease as people realize this isn't a proclamation of doom, but simply good information delivered out of an abundance of caution. When he finishes, there's a smattering of applause and the square returns to its normal bustle. The acolyte climbs down from the well, and you see him wipe his forehead with his sleeve. He looks exhausted. Your mother, being your mother, immediately starts packing up a small basket. "Take this to him," she tells you, handing you a jar of honey and some bread wrapped in cloth. "And see if he needs anything else. Poor young man looks like he's been on the road too long." You take the basket and make your way through the crowd. The acolyte is talking with one of the town elders, explaining something about burning certain herbs to purify air, a practice you're not sure actually works, but which can't hurt, and you wait politely until they're finished. "Excuse me," you say. He turns, and up close he looks even younger. Mid-20s perhaps, with the kind of face that will age well but hasn't quite settled into itself yet. His robes are dusty and his boots are worn. "My mother thought you might appreciate this." You hold out the basket. He blinks at it, then at you, and for a moment you think he might refuse. But then he smiles, and it transforms his tired face into something warmer. "That's very kind. Thank you." He takes the basket and immediately breaks off a piece of bread, eating it with obvious hunger. "I haven't eaten since last night. There's honey too. It's good honey, my family keeps bees. Everything from Honeyholt is good honey, I've heard." He's opening the jar now, dipping the bread into it and taking another bite. "Seven save me, that's delicious." You feel an absurd flush of pride, as if you personally made the honey rather than merely being related to people who did. "Where are you traveling from?" "Old Town, originally, but we've been to a dozen towns in the past 2 weeks delivering the same message." He gestures vaguely at the guards, who are now buying supplies from various vendors. "Exhausting work, but necessary. Is the plague really as bad as they say?" He considers this, chewing thoughtfully. "It's bad in the places it's bad. But it's also contained to coastal areas, and it responds well to treatment if caught early. The Citadel believes there will be no major outbreak this year. Still, better to be cautious." You nod. This makes sense, and it eases a worry you hadn't quite articulated even to yourself. "Your mother is the beekeeper?" he asks. "Both my parents. My father manages the hives, my mother makes the products we sell. And you?" "I help, I'm not. I'm not particularly talented at any one thing, I suppose, but I'm useful." You're not sure why you've said this, and you feel suddenly self-conscious. What a thing to tell a stranger, that you're unremarkable at everything. But he doesn't seem to find it strange. "Usefulness is underrated," he says seriously. The citadel is full of people who are brilliant at very specific things and useless at everything else. Give me someone useful any day. He finishes the bread and honey, looking considerably more energized. Please thank your mother for me. This was exactly what I needed. I will. You return to your family's stall, where your mother gives you an inquiring look. He was very grateful, you report. Says the plague is contained and we shouldn't worry overmuch. Good. She goes back to serving a customer, but you can see the relief in the set of her shoulders. The rest of market day passes in a pleasant blur. You sell out of the lavender soap completely and most of the honey. Your mother takes orders for candles to be delivered later. Someone wants 40 votives for a wedding. Another person wants a set of thick pillars for their home shrine. You eat lunch from the baker's stall, meat pies that are greasy and perfect, and drink cider from the brewery at the edge of town. Petter returns with tales of all the interesting things he's seen, including a man who claims to have fought in a tournament once, and a woman selling songbirds that can supposedly learn to mimic voices. By mid-afternoon, your mother declares you're done. You've sold well, the coin box is pleasantly heavy, and there's no point in standing in the hot sun for the remaining stragglers. You pack up the stall, loading the much lighter cart with empty crates and unsold goods. The walk home is slower, more leisurely. Your mother is humming, which she does when she's content. Petter has gone quiet, his earlier energy spent, and he walks beside you rubbing his eyes. The afternoon light is golden and thick, the sun beginning its slow descent. The market square behind you is still busy, but the noise fades as you make your way through the streets and back onto the road home. Part 4. Afternoon Work. Back home, your father is sitting in the garden with a cup of something, cider or small beer, you'd guess, and an expression of deep contentment. He's removed his boots and his feet are bare in the grass, and there's a cat curled in his lap, orange and fat and purring audibly even from a distance. Good day, he asks as you approach. Very good, your mother confirms. She begins listing the sales, what sold well and what didn't, what orders were taken. Your father listens with half his attention, the other half clearly focused on enjoying his drink and the warm afternoon. You unload the cart, putting away the supplies and taking the coin box into the house where your mother will count it properly later and add the sum to the family ledger. Petter has disappeared to his room, probably to nap. He'll deny it if asked, but you know the signs. With the cart unloaded and nothing immediately pressing to do, you find yourself at loose ends. This is a rare feeling. Usually there's something that needs doing, some task waiting for attention. But right now, in this golden afternoon moment, there's nothing urgent calling. You wander into the garden where your mother has created a small paradise. Vegetables grow in neat rows, beans climbing their poles, tomatoes sagging with fruit, squash sprawling across the ground. Herbs make a border around everything, and flowers dot the space seemingly at random, but actually carefully placed for color and scent. There's a bench here, weathered wood that's been worn smooth by years of use. You sit down, tucking your skirts under you, and just breathe. The bees hum in the near distance. A breeze stirs the air, carrying the scent of tomato plants and basil. Somewhere a dog is barking, and somewhere else children are shouting in play. The sounds of life, ordinary and peaceful, you close your eyes and let the afternoon wash over you. This is happiness, you think. Not ecstasy, not wild joy, but this quiet contentment. The satisfaction of work done well, of family safe around you, of a town that goes on year after year with its small troubles and small triumphs, all of it adding up to lives lived with purpose and care. Your mind drifts. You think about the acolyte from the market, his tired eyes and his kind smile. You wonder if he's still in Honeyholt or if he's already moved on to the next town, delivering his warnings and advice. You think about your sister and the baby coming. You think about nothing in particular. The sun moves across the sky. The shadows lengthen. You remain on the bench, suspended in this perfect, peaceful moment. Eventually, your mother's voice calls from the house. Come help with dinner. You rise, brushing dirt from your skirts, and head inside. Your mother is at the kitchen table with vegetables spread before her, things from the garden and things bought at market. She hands you a knife and you begin chopping onions, your eyes watering but your hands steady with practice. Petter emerges from his room, sleep-rumpled and sheepish. I wasn't napping, he insists. Of course not, your mother says solemnly. You were resting your eyes while lying very still. He grins and starts setting the table, plates and cups and utensils, and a jar of water with mint leaves floating in it to make the water taste fresh. Your father comes in, the orange cat still following him. The cat, Marmalade, though no one remembers who named her that, wins around everyone's legs, hopeful for scraps. Dinner comes together the way it always does, through the combined effort of familiar hands doing familiar work. Potatoes are peeled and boiled. The vegetables you're chopping go into a pot with some chicken stock and herbs. Your mother makes a simple sauce for the chicken she's roasting. Bread from this morning is sliced. Everything is timed so it finishes together, the way your mother has done countless times before. You sit down to eat as the sun is setting, the western windows filling with gold and orange light. The food is simple but good, the kind of meal that nourishes body and soul. You eat together, talking about the day. Your father tells a story about one of the hives, how a particular bee kept landing on his hand as if trying to tell him something. Petter describes in great detail the chickens he saw at market, explaining the differences between breeds with an enthusiasm that makes everyone smile. Your mother talks about the customers, who's doing well and who's struggling. And you contribute your small observations, the acolyte and his message, the woman who bought 3 jars of honey and says her mother makes mead, the way the light fell on the cobblestones in the market square. After dinner, you help wash the dishes while Petter dries. The evening settles around your home like a soft blanket. Your father lights a single candle, one of your family's own, of course, and sits by the window with his pipe. Your mother takes up some mending, her needle flashing in the candlelight. You find your book and settle into your favorite chair, but the words blur after a few pages. The day has been long and full, and a pleasant tiredness seeps into your bones. One by one, your family drifts toward sleep. Petter first, dragging his feet up the stairs. Then your parents, your mother banking the coals in the hearth, your father checking the door is latched. You climb the stairs last, each step familiar beneath your feet. In your room, the curtains drift in the evening breeze. You change into your night clothes and slip between the cool sheets, your head sinking into the lavender-scented pillow. Outside, the bees have settled into their hives. The town of Honeyholt is quiet, safe, tucked into its peaceful valley. Tomorrow will bring another day much like this one, ordinary, gentle, full of small purposes and quiet joys. You close your eyes and let sleep take you, grateful for this simple, beautiful life. Story 3: The Baker's Apprentice. You wake in darkness to the sound of bells. Not the great bells of the sept, but the small brass bell that hangs by the bakery door downstairs, ringing as your master arrives to begin the day's work. The sound is familiar, comforting even though it comes far too early for most people's liking. But you're used to it now. Bakers keep different hours than the rest of the world. You sit up in your narrow bed, rubbing sleep from your eyes. Your room is tiny, barely more than a closet, really, tucked into the upper floor of the bakery on the street of Flower. There's space for your bed, a small chest for your belongings, and a hook on the wall for your clothes. A single small window looks out over the alley, though right now there's nothing to see but darkness. You light the stub of a candle, carefully, because candles cost money and dress quickly in the cool pre-dawn air. Simple clothes, a linen shirt, wool breeches, an apron that's seen better days but is clean. You splash water on your face from the basin, gasping at the coldness, and run your fingers through your hair. Downstairs, you can already hear movement. The scrape of the oven door, the thump of wood being added to the fire, the low voice of Master Petter talking to himself, as he always does when he works. You descend the narrow stairs, your footsteps quiet on the worn wood. The bakery is still dim, lit only by the glow from the oven and a single lantern hanging from a beam. But it's warm, wonderfully warm after the coolness of your room, and it smells of yeast and flour and the faint char of the fire. Master Petter is at the oven, his broad back to you as he arranges logs. He's a large man, your master, with arms like tree trunks and a belly that speaks of too much tasting of his own wares. His hair is mostly gone on top, and what remains is tied back in a short tail. He's been a baker for 40 years, he likes to say, and he'll be a baker until the stranger takes him. Morning, he grunts without turning around. He always knows when you arrive, some sixth sense developed over years of taking on apprentices. Morning, master. Water's heating. Dough needs checking. Then we start the morning loaves. This is your routine, as familiar as breathing by now. You've been apprenticed to Master Petter for 2 years, and every morning begins the same way. Check the dough that's been rising overnight. Prepare the workspace. Begin the endless, rhythmic work of baking bread for King's Landing's hungry thousands. You move to the large wooden table that dominates the center of the room. 3 bowls sit there, covered with damp cloths. You pull back the first cloth and peer at the dough. It's risen nicely, doubled in size, with that distinctive yeasty smell that means it's ready to work with. The second bowl is the same. The third, you frown slightly, could use a bit more time, but it'll do. All good? Master Petter asks. The third one's a bit slow, but yes. Probably the temperature. Cool night. We'll give it a few more minutes while we heat the stones. The stones are flat pieces of slate that go in the oven to provide an even heat for the bread. Handling them is an art. Too cool and the bread doesn't bake right, too hot and it burns. You use the long wooden paddle to arrange them, feeling the heat of the oven on your face and arms. By the time you're done, the eastern sky visible through the bakery's front windows is just beginning to lighten. Not true dawn yet, but the promise of it. The city is still mostly quiet, though you can hear the occasional sound of other early risers. A cart rumbling past, voices from the fish market down the street where the boats are coming in, a dog barking. Master Petter brings the first bowl of dough to the table and begins working it with practiced efficiency. His hands, scarred from a lifetime of burns and cuts, move with surprising delicacy. He divides the dough, shapes it into loaves, sets them on a wooden board to rise one final time. You watch for a moment, then begin working on the second bowl. Your hands aren't as skilled as his, not yet, but you're learning. The dough is soft and elastic, slightly sticky. You fold it, press it, shape it. Each loaf needs to be roughly the same size so they bake evenly. Each needs to be shaped properly so it rises well and develops a good crust. The work is meditative, peaceful even in the quiet pre-dawn hours. Just you and Master Petter and the dough, the warm glow of the oven, the slowly lightening sky. "You're getting better," Master Petter says after a while. "Your loaves are more consistent." You feel a flush of pride. Master Petter isn't free with compliments. "Thank you, Master." Don't let it go to your head. You've still got years to go before you're a proper baker. But he's smiling slightly as he says it. The loaves shaped, you set them aside to rise while you prepare for the next stage. Flour is swept from the table. The paddle is readied. The oven is checked. Master Petter opens the door and holds his hand inside, judging the temperature by feel alone. "Ready," he declares. Together, you begin loading the loaves into the oven. This is always a slightly anxious moment. Slide them in wrong and they'll deflate. Leave them too close together and they'll bake unevenly. But you've done this hundreds of times by now, and your movements are steady. The loaves arranged, Master Petter closes the oven door and wipes his hands on his apron. Now we wait. And while we wait, we start the sweet rolls. The sweet rolls are a specialty of the bakery, popular with the merchants and craftspeople who can afford such luxuries. They're made with butter and honey, studded with dried fruit, glazed with sugar. They're also a lot more work than regular bread. You gather the ingredients while Master Petter mixes the dough. Flour, butter, eggs, honey, yeast, a pinch of salt, warm milk. Everything measured by feel rather than specific amounts. Master Petter says a good baker knows by instinct how much of what is needed. The dough for sweet rolls is richer, stickier, harder to work with. It needs to be kneaded longer, needs to rise in a warm spot, needs careful attention. While Master Petter works it, you prepare the filling, dried apples and raisins chopped fine, mixed with cinnamon and a touch of honey. By now, the first hints of true dawn are showing. The sky has gone from black to deep blue, and the street outside is beginning to wake up. You can hear more sounds, shutters opening, people calling to each other, the clop of horses' hooves on cobblestones. Master Petter covers the sweet roll dough and sets it aside to rise. "Check the bread," he instructs. You use the paddle to carefully open the oven door and peer inside. The loaves are browning nicely, rising tall, developing that perfect golden crust. The smell is incredible, yeasty and warm and wholesome. Another 10 minutes, you estimate. Good eye. The bakery is properly warm now, the oven having heated the whole space. You shed your outer apron, hanging it on its peg, and work in just your shirt and under apron. Master Petter does the same, revealing arms like hams and the perpetual dusting of flour that seems to cling to every baker. The bells of the great sept ring out, marking the hour. Dawn, the official beginning of the day, though you've been working for over an hour already. "Time to open the shutters," Master Petter says. "Let people know we're alive." You move to the front of the bakery and open the wooden shutters, flooding the space with early morning light. Outside, the street of flour is coming to life. Other bakers are opening their shops. Servants are hurrying past on morning errands. A group of gold cloaks marches by on patrol, their armor catching the light. You stand in the doorway for a moment, breathing the morning air. King's Landing is a complicated city, too crowded, too smelly in summer, too full of people with too many ambitions and too little care for those beneath them. But at dawn, before the day's heat and chaos truly begin, it can be almost beautiful. Stop daydreaming, Master Petter calls. Bread's ready. You hurry back to help remove the loaves from the oven. This is skilled work. They're hot, heavy, and prone to breaking if handled wrong. But you and Master Petter work smoothly together, using the paddle and thick cloths to transfer each loaf to the cooling racks. They're perfect. Golden brown, risen high, with a crust that crackles slightly as it cools. You can't help but feel satisfied. These loaves will feed people today, will be torn apart at breakfast tables and dinner tables across this part of the city. It's honest work, good work. Right, says Master Petter, surveying the morning's first batch with approval. Now we do it all again, and again after that, and then the sweet rolls, and then... I know, Master, you say, smiling. Course you do, you're learning, slowly but you're learning. And so the morning continues, the rhythm of the bakery carrying you along. Mix dough, shape loaves, tend the oven, remove finished bread, start again. The sweet rolls are shaped and baked, 12 to a tray, glazed while still warm so the sugar melts into them. The smell of them baking is enough to make your mouth water. By the time the sun is properly up, the bakery's counter is laden with goods. Brown bread and white, round loaves and long ones, the sweet rolls gleaming with their sugar glaze, a few specialty items, braided bread, rolls studded with herbs, small meat pies that Master Petter makes on the side. And then the customers begin to arrive. First is old Mara, who comes every morning without fail for a brown loaf. She's ancient, bent nearly double with age, but her mind is sharp and her tongue sharper. Took you long enough, she says by way of greeting, though you opened at exactly the usual time. Good morning to you too, Mara, Master Petter says, already wrapping her usual loaf. Is it? I hadn't noticed. Weather's too hot, bread's probably stale already. The bread came out of the oven an hour ago. That long, definitely stale. But she's counting out her coins with arthritic fingers, and you can see the hint of a smile on her wrinkled face. This is her routine, her way. Master Petter says she's been coming to this bakery for 50 years, since before he owned it, and she's complained about the bread every single morning. But she keeps coming back. After Mara comes a rush of servants from the great houses, buying bread for their masters' breakfasts. Then working people stopping by before they start their days. A carpenter, a seamstress, a clerk from the harbor master's office. A gold cloak buys 4 sweet rolls and eats one immediately, leaning against the doorframe and sighing with contentment. You handle most of the sales while Master Petter works in back, starting new batches. It's a different kind of work than the baking. You have to make change, answer questions, sometimes refuse credit to people who you know won't pay. But you're getting better at it, learning to read people's moods and intentions. A young woman comes in well-dressed, a servant from a wealthy house judging by her good shoes and the quality of her apron. She's new, you haven't seen her before. Good morning, you say. What can I get for you? 2 white loaves and... She's looking at the sweet rolls with undisguised longing. How much are those? You tell her. Her face falls slightly. Just the bread, then. You wrap the loaves for her and she pays, exact change counted out carefully. But she keeps glancing at the sweet rolls as she tucks the bread into her basket. On an impulse, you grab one of the rolls and add it to her basket. From the bakery, you say, "Welcome to the street of flour." Her face lights up. "Really? Thank you so much." She leaves beaming, and you feel good about it until Master Petter emerges from the back. "Did you just give away a sweet roll?" You hesitate. "Yes, Master. Because." "She was new to the neighborhood. I thought it would be good for business, make her want to come back." Master Petter regards you for a long moment, then he nods. "Good thinking. That's how you build loyal customers, but don't make a habit of it or we'll be out of business by month's end." "Yes, Master." The morning wears on. The shop empties and fills and empties again in waves. You sell bread, make change, answer the same questions over and over. Yes, the bread is fresh. No, there's no discount for buying multiple loaves. Yes, the sweet rolls are worth the price. Around mid-morning, a boy runs in, one of the street children who seem to be everywhere in King's Landing, ragged and too thin and far too clever for their own good. "Need to buy bread for the sept," he announces. "Sister Alice sent me." The sept takes donations of bread for the poor, and Sister Alice is one of the septas who organizes it. You know this boy, his name is Tam, and he's reliable, which is more than can be said for many in his position. "How much does the sept need?" you ask. "As much as you can spare." You glance at Master Petter, who nods. "Give him yesterday's bread, the full basket." Yesterday's bread is still good, just a day old, which means nothing in terms of edibility. But it won't sell as well as fresh bread, so it makes sense to donate it. You fetch the basket from the back room where Master Petter stores such things. "Here you go, Tam. Think you can carry it?" He's skinny as a rail, but he hefts the basket with practiced ease. "I can manage. Sister Alice says to thank you and the gods bless your ovens." "Tell Sister Alice she's welcome." The boy darts off, the basket balanced on his hip. Through the window, you watch him navigate the crowded street with the ease of someone who's spent his whole life in them. "Good lad," Master Petter observes. "Hope he stays out of trouble." "Think he will? If he's lucky, if he's smart. But luck and smarts don't always carry the day in this city." It's a rare moment of philosophy from your master, and you don't quite know what to say to it. So you just nod and return to your work. By noon, the morning rush is over. You've sold through most of the regular bread and about half the sweet rolls. Master Petter declares it's time for a break, which means you get to eat. There's always food in the bakery, obviously. Sometimes customers pay in trade, eggs, vegetables, once a whole ham. And there's always bread, more bread than you could ever eat. For your midday meal, Master Petter cuts thick slices from a loaf and toasts them over the oven's fire. He adds butter and jam, both acquired through trade, and pours cups of small beer. You eat at the work table, too hungry to care about sitting properly. The bread is perfect, crispy outside, soft inside, the butter melting into it. The jam is strawberry, sweet, and tart at once. "After this, you can have the afternoon," Master Petter says around a mouthful of bread. "I'll mind the shop." This is unusual. Normally you work until evening. "Are you sure, Master? You've been working hard." "And I need you up early tomorrow. Got a big order from one of the houses, wedding or something. You'll be here before dawn getting everything ready." "Thank you, Master." He waves a hand dismissively. "Don't thank me. You've earned it. Just be back before dawn tomorrow, understood?" Understood. You finish your meal, wash up, and hang up your apron. It feels strange to be leaving in the middle of the day to have unexpected free time, but you're not going to argue with it. You step out into the midday bustle of King's Landing, blinking in the bright sunlight. The Street of Flower is alive with activity. Carts rumble past, loaded with goods heading to or from the markets. People jostle on the narrow sidewalks, servants on errands, merchants arguing over prices, children playing games that seem to involve a lot of shouting and running. You pause for a moment, considering what to do with your unexpected freedom. You could return to your small room and rest. The early morning has left you tired. But the day is pleasant, warm without being oppressive, and you feel like being outside. You decide to walk toward Fishmonger's Square, taking the long route through the city. It's not exactly a pleasant walk. King's Landing in summer can be pungent, to put it mildly, but there's something fascinating about it too. The sheer number of people, the variety of goods for sale, the mixture of languages and accents you hear. The city is 7 kingdoms worth of people compressed into one space, all of them trying to make their way. You pass a woman selling flowers from a basket, roses and lilies, bright spots of color against the gray stone buildings. A fishmonger calls out his wares, his voice carrying over the crowd. 2 men are having a heated argument in a language you don't recognize, gesturing wildly while a crowd gathers to watch. At Fishmonger's Square, you stop to watch the fountain. It's not much, just a simple spout feeding into a basin, but the sound of running water is pleasant. A few people are filling jugs, and some children are playing in the spray, shrieking with laughter when the water hits them. You sit on the edge of the fountain's basin, letting your feet rest and watching the city flow around you. A pair of gold cloaks walks past, their eyes scanning the crowd for trouble. A wealthy woman is carried past in a litter, her curtains pulled back so she can look out at the common people. A dog trots by with purpose, clearly heading somewhere important on dog business. After a while, you continue walking, no particular destination in mind. You find yourself drifting toward the docks, where the ships come in from all over the world. The harbor is visible from here, blue water dotted with sails, everything from small fishing boats to great merchant vessels. The docks themselves are chaos. Sailors shouting in various languages, cargo being loaded and unloaded, the smell of salt water and tar and fish. You keep to the edge of it, watching but not getting too close. This isn't your world, you're a baker's apprentice, not a sailor, but it's interesting to watch. A ship is being unloaded nearby, and you can see crates and barrels being carried down the gangplank. Someone shouts about spices, and you catch the scent of something exotic, cinnamon, maybe, or something else from the east. It makes you think about the sweet rolls, how a little bit of cinnamon transforms the taste completely. You watch for a while, then turn back toward the city proper. The sun is high in the sky now, and the heat is building. You're starting to feel the weight of the early morning, the tiredness creeping into your bones. On your way back, you pass through one of the market squares. This one is smaller than Fishmonger's Square, tucked between buildings, but it's busy with vendors selling all manner of things. You pause at a stall selling books, or rather, selling pages torn from books, bundled together and sold cheaply to those who can't afford proper bound volumes. You can read, which is more than many people in King's Landing can say. Master Petter taught you, saying a baker needs to be able to read recipes and keep accounts. You've come to love it the way words can transport you somewhere else entirely. The vendor, an old man with ink-stained fingers, sees you looking and holds up a bundle. Tales from across the narrow sea, he says. Adventures, romance, battles, only 3 coppers. You consider 3 coppers is not nothing, but you have a little money saved. And the early morning tomorrow will be long and tedious. Something to read before bed would be nice. I'll take it, you decide. He wraps the pages in a scrap of cloth and you tuck the bundle carefully into your shirt. Enjoy, he says. It's a good one. Hero fights a dragon, wins a princess, the usual. You smile and continue on your way, feeling pleased with your purchase. The walk back to the Street of Flowers seems shorter than the walk out, the way it always does when you're heading home. The bakery is quiet when you return. Master Petter is sitting on a stool by the door, arms crossed, apparently dozing. The afternoon sun slants through the windows, turning the remaining bread golden. You slip past him quietly and climb the stairs to your room. It's hot up here, the sun having warmed the space considerably, but you're too tired to care. You kick off your shoes, splash more water on your face, and lie down on your narrow bed. The bundle of pages sits on your chest. You unwrap it and begin to read. The story is indeed about a hero and a dragon and a princess. It's not particularly well writ, and the pages are worn and stained. But it's engaging enough, and you find yourself drawn into the tale despite its flaws. You read until your eyes grow heavy, the words beginning to blur. The afternoon sounds of the city drift through your window, voices, wheels, the distant ring of a hammer on metal. Comfortable sounds, the sounds of life continuing all around you. You set the pages aside carefully and let your eyes close. Just a short rest, you think, just until evening. When you wake, the light through your window has changed to the golden color of late afternoon. You've slept longer than intended, but you feel refreshed, the tiredness from the early morning finally lifted. Downstairs, you can hear voices, Master Petter and someone else, a woman's voice you don't immediately recognize. You dress properly and descend to find your master talking with Sister Alice from the Sept, the same Seppa that Tam had mentioned earlier. Ah, there you are, Master Petter says. Sister Alice was just thanking us for the bread. Sister Alice is a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and the sort of no-nonsense demeanor that comes from dealing with people in need every day. It was very generous, she says to you directly. The bread went to good use. There are many in this city who go hungry. We're glad to help, you say, and mean it. She smiles. The gods bless those who give from their abundance, and sometimes from their lack too. She turns back to Master Petter. I should be getting back, thank you again. After she leaves, Master Petter closes up the shop, bringing in the sign and fastening the shutters. Good woman, that, he says, could use more like her. You help clean up, sweeping flour from the floor, wiping down the work table, banking the oven fire so it will be easy to restart in the morning. The work is companionable and quiet, both of you tired from the long day. Go on up, Master Petter says finally. I'll finish here, and remember before dawn tomorrow. I remember, Master. Thank you for the afternoon off. He waves a hand, but he's smiling slightly. Up in your room, you light your candle stub again. It's getting dark outside now, the sun having set while you were cleaning. You can hear Master Petter moving around below, then the sound of the door as he leaves for his own home. He doesn't live above the bakery like you do. He has a small house a few streets over where his wife waits with dinner. You're alone now in the building, which is a strange feeling but not an unwelcome one. You finish the story about the hero and the dragon. He wins, of course, and gets the princess, just as the vendor predicted. It's satisfying in its predictability. For your own dinner, you have bread, always bread, and some cheese you bought 2 days ago. You eat slowly, savoring it, looking out your small window at the city below. King's Landing at night is different from King's Landing during the day. The streets are darker, lit only by the occasional torch or lamp. The sounds change, less bustle, more individual voices carrying in the still air. Somewhere someone is singing. Somewhere else someone is arguing. The gold cloaks patrols become more frequent, their boots rhythmic on the cobblestones. You finish eating and prepare for bed. Wash your face and hands in the basin. Say a simple prayer to the seven, more out of habit than conviction. Check that your few possessions are secure in your chest. Then you blow out the candle and climb into bed, pulling the thin blanket over yourself even though the night is warm. Tomorrow, you'll wake before dawn again. Tomorrow, you'll shape dough and tend the oven and serve customers. The day after will be the same, and the day after that. This is your life, small, simple, unremarkable. But lying there in the darkness, listening to the city outside your window, you find yourself content. You have work you're good at, a master who treats you fairly, a warm place to sleep and enough to eat. In a city as large and indifferent as King's Landing, that's more than many people have. You close your eyes and let sleep take you, ready for whatever tomorrow brings. Story 4: The Keeper of Books. You wake to the sound of wind against stone. It's a constant companion in Winterfell, that wind, sometimes a whisper, sometimes a howl, but always there, finding its way through every crack and crevice in the ancient castle. In summer, it's merely persistent. In winter, they say, it can be vicious. But this is autumn, and the wind is cool and steady, carrying the scent of pine from the wolf's wood. Your room is small and tucked away in one of Winterfell's many towers. Not a grand tower where lords and ladies sleep, but a functional one near the library where you work. It's a comfortable space. A narrow bed with thick wool blankets, a chest for your clothes, a small table with a basin for washing, and most importantly, shelves. Shelves filled with books that you've borrowed from the library, promising to return them but somehow always having new ones to take their place. The morning light is gray and soft, filtering through the single window. You can see your breath misting slightly in the cool air. Autumn is well advanced, and soon the Maester will be watching for the white raven from the citadel that signals winter's arrival. But not yet. Not today. You rise and dress quickly, layering your clothes against the chill. A linen shift, a wool dress in practical gray, thick stockings, and sturdy shoes. Over everything, a heavy shawl that you wrap around your shoulders. In Winterfell, you learn to dress in layers. The wash water in your basin has a thin skin of ice on it. You break it with your fingers and splash your face, gasping at the cold. It wakes you thoroughly, which is probably the point. Once dressed and somewhat presentable, you make your way down the tower stairs. The castle is already awake around you. You can hear voices echoing through the corridors, the clang of pots from the kitchens, the bark of dogs in the courtyard. Winterfell is a city unto itself, housing not just the Stark family, but hundreds of people who keep the great castle running. You've lived here for 3 years now, ever since the old librarian died and the Meister sent word south looking for someone who could read and write and had a love of books. You'd been working as a scribe in White Harbor, copying documents and contracts for merchants, and the prospect of caring for Winterfell's library had seemed like a dream. It still does most days. The library is on the ground floor of the same tower where you sleep, which makes for a very convenient commute. You unlock the heavy wooden door with the key that hangs always on a chain around your neck and step inside. The library greets you with its familiar smell: old paper, leather, dust, and the faint mustiness that comes from books that have sat on shelves for decades or even centuries. It's a scent you've come to love that speaks of knowledge preserved and stories waiting to be discovered. The room itself is circular, following the shape of the tower, with shelves built into the walls from floor to ceiling. A ladder on wheels allows access to the higher shelves. In the center of the room are several tables with chairs where people can sit and read. A large hearth takes up one section of wall, cold now, but ready to be lit when the chill grows too deep. Morning light comes through the narrow windows, illuminating dust motes that dance in the air. You move through the familiar space, running your fingers along the spines of books as you pass. Some are bound in leather, some in wood, some in cloth. Some are beautifully illuminated manuscripts, while others are simple collections of pages sewn together. All are precious. Your first task each morning is to check that everything is in order. Books should be returned to their proper places. You have a system, organized by subject and then by author when known. You check the tables for any volumes left out overnight, though this is rare. Few people come to the library, and those who do are usually respectful of the rules. Today, everything is in its place. The library is exactly as you left it last evening. Satisfied, you move to your desk, a large, sturdy table near one of the windows where you do your work. Your current project sits there waiting, a history of House Stark that's falling apart, its binding cracked and pages loose. You've been carefully rebinding it, page by page, a process that requires patience and precision. But before you can begin, you need to light the fire and make the space warm enough to work in. Your fingers are already stiff with cold, and you can't do delicate work with numb hands. You build the fire carefully, using kindling and logs from the basket beside the hearth. The wood catches quickly. Someone, probably one of the castle's many servants, has ensured the wood is dry and ready. Soon flames are crackling and warmth begins to spread through the room. While the fire builds, you go to the kitchens to fetch your breakfast. This is one of the privileges of your position. You take your meals with the other castle staff, eating well if not extravagantly. The kitchens are warm and bustling, with people preparing the day's meals for hundreds of mouths. "Morning," calls Nan, one of the cooks. She's an older woman, round and cheerful, who's been working in Winterfell's kitchens since before you were born. "Hungry?" "Always," you admit. She ladles porridge into a bowl and adds a generous dollop of butter and honey. There's also fresh bread, still warm from the ovens, and a cup of hot cider that steams invitingly. "You'll waste away up in that tower," Nan says, as she always does. "Nothing but dusty old books for company." "The books are excellent company," you reply, as you always do. She shakes her head, but she's smiling. "Take an extra piece of bread, and there's bacon if you want it." You accept both gratefully and make your way back to the library, carefully balancing your breakfast. The corridors of Winterfell are confusing to newcomers, a maze of passages and stairs that seem to have been added over centuries with no particular plan. But you know your way now, can navigate from library to kitchens to great hall to courtyard without thinking. Back in the library, the fire has warmed the space considerably. You settle at your desk and eat your breakfast slowly, savoring each bite. The porridge is creamy and sweet, the bread is hearty, and the bacon is perfectly crispy. The hot cider warms you from the inside. As you eat, you look around the library with satisfaction. This is your domain, your responsibility, and you take it seriously. These books represent knowledge accumulated over generations. Histories, genealogies, herbals, bestiaries, collections of songs and stories, treatises on warfare and farming and fishing and falconry. Some are rare, possibly unique. All deserve to be preserved. Breakfast finished, you wash your hands carefully in the basin you keep for this purpose. You never touch the books with dirty hands and settle down to work on the rebinding. The process is meditative. You take each loose page and carefully reattach it using thread and glue made from boiled rabbit hide. The thread must be tight, but not so tight it tears the old paper. The glue must be applied sparingly. Too much and the pages stick together, too little and they fall out again. Time passes without you noticing. This is one of the things you love about this work, the way you can lose yourself in it, the rest of the world fading away until there's nothing but your hands and the book and the slow, careful process of repair. You're startled out of your concentration by a voice. "Hello?" You look up to find a young girl standing in the doorway. She's perhaps 10 or 11, with long dark hair and the stark look about her, the long face, the gray eyes. You recognize her, though you don't know her well. One of the younger, stark children, always running around the castle with what seems like boundless energy. "Good morning," you say, setting down your work. "Can I help you?" She steps inside, looking around with obvious curiosity. "Are you the bookkeeper?" "I am. My name is," you give your name. "And you're?" Arya Stark." She says it almost defiantly, as if expecting you to tell her she shouldn't be here, but you just smile. "Welcome, Arya Stark. Are you looking for something to read?" "Maybe. My septa says I should read more about noble ladies and how they're supposed to act, but that sounds boring." She wrinkles her nose. You suppress a smile. "I see. What would you rather read about?" "Do you have anything about warriors or explorers or," she pauses, then adds in a rush, "do you have the book about Visenya Targaryen, the one who had a sword?" Now you do smile. "I do actually. Let me find it for you." You move to one of the shelves and run your finger along the spines until you find what you're looking for. It's a history of the Targaryen conquest, with a section devoted to Queen Visenya and her sword, dark sister. "Here," you say, handing it to her. The section about Visenya starts about halfway through. You can sit at any of the tables to read. Arya takes the book reverently, already flipping through the pages. "Thank you. Can I really just sit and read?" "That's what the library is for. Just please be careful with the book. It's quite old." "I will, I promise." She settles at one of the tables, the book open before her, and within moments she's completely absorbed. You return to your work pleased. This is another part of your job, connecting people with books, helping them find what they need or what they didn't know they needed. The morning continues peacefully. You work on your rebinding while Arya reads. occasionally making small exclamations or gasps as she discovers something exciting in the text. The fire crackles. The wind whispers against the windows. Outside, the castle goes about its business. Eventually, Arya looks up. "This is amazing. Did you know Queen Visenya could fight as well as any knight?" "I did," you say. "There are several other books about warrior women if you're interested. The histories often overlook them, but they existed." Her eyes light up. "Really? Really? Come back anytime and I'll help you find them." She carefully closes the book and returns it to you. "I have to go. My dancing master will be looking for me, but I'll come back. Thank you." She darts out as quickly as she arrived, leaving the library feeling somehow emptier. But you smile as you return the book to its shelf. If you can instill a love of reading in even one young person, that's worth something. By midday, your stomach is reminding you that breakfast was some time ago. You mark your place in the rebinding project, about halfway done now, and make your way to the Great Hall where the midday meal is served. The Great Hall is impressive, with its high ceiling and long tables, and the raised platform where the Stark family sits when they take their meals formally. Today, though, the high table is empty. The lord and lady must be dining privately. The lower tables are filled with castle staff, guards, servants, and various others who live and work in Winterfell. You find a spot at one of the tables and are soon served. Stew today, thick with venison and root vegetables, and more of the hearty bread. There's butter and cheese as well, and ale to drink. The food is simple but plentiful and good fuel for the afternoon's work. Around you, people are talking, discussing their work, gossiping about who's courting whom, debating whether winter will come early this year. You listen more than you participate, enjoying the sound of conversation and laughter. Across from you, a guard is describing a hunting trip in the Wolfswood. "The buck was massive," he's saying, gesturing with his hands. "Took 3 arrows to bring down, and even then he nearly got away." "Exaggerating as always, Tom," says the woman next to him. "I am not." "Ask anyone who was there." You smile into your stew. These stories grow with each telling, you've noticed. By next week, the buck will probably be the size of a horse. After eating, you return to the library to find that you have another visitor. This one is an older man, one of the castle's stewards, and he's looking for records of grain stores from 10 years ago. "The Meister sent me," he explains. "Says we need to compare with this year's harvest, see if we're on track." You nod and move to the section where such records are kept. Winterfell's library contains not just books, but also scrolls and documents. The mundane records of castle life that must be preserved even if they're not exciting reading. You find the records he needs, neat columns of numbers in the hand of whoever was keeping accounts a decade ago, and hand them over. "Just bring them back when you're done," you say. "And please be careful, the paper is brittle." Of course, of course." He tucks the records under his arm and hurries off, probably to spend his afternoon comparing numbers. Alone again, you return to your work, but you've been sitting for most of the day and your back is beginning to ache. You decide to take a different approach to your afternoon tasks, organizing and cleaning. The library is generally tidy, but there's always more that can be done. You start by dusting the shelves, carefully removing books, wiping down the wood, and replacing them. It's slow work, there are hundreds of books, but satisfying. As you work, you examine each volume, checking for damage that might need repair. Most are in good condition, but you find a few that need attention. A torn page here, a loose binding there. You set these aside to work on later. The afternoon light shifts, moving across the floor as the sun makes its way west. The fire has burned down and you add more wood, then continue your work. There's something deeply peaceful about this. The repetitive motion, the smell of old books, the knowledge that you're preserving something important. You're on the third section of shelves when you hear footsteps outside. These are heavier than Arya's had been, and when you turn, you see Maester Luwin entering the library. Maester Luwin is an older man, thin and neat, with sharp eyes that miss nothing. He's been the Maester of Winterfell for many years, and in the time you've been here, he's been unfailingly kind and supportive of your work. "Good afternoon," he says. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." "Not at all, Maester. How can I help you?" "I was hoping to borrow the herbal, the one with the detailed illustrations. I have a patient with an unusual rash and I want to consult it." You know exactly which book he means, a beautiful herbal with hand-painted illustrations of medicinal plants. You retrieve it from its place and hand it to him. "Thank you, I'll return it within the week." He pauses, looking around the library. "You keep this place well. It's much improved since you arrived." You feel a flush of pleasure at the compliment. "Thank you, Maester, I do my best." "Your best is quite good." He tucks the herbal under his arm. "Oh, and there's something else. Lord Stark has asked if you might make a copy of the family tree. He wants to send it to his brother at the Wall. The Night's Watch keeps records, apparently, and they're missing several generations of Stark lineage." "Of course, I can do that. It'll take a few days. I'll want to make sure it's accurate and legible." "No rush. Whenever you can manage." He nods and takes his leave. A copy of the family tree. That's interesting work, more engaging than simply rebinding. You'll need to consult multiple sources to ensure accuracy, then carefully pen the names and dates in your neatest hand. Perhaps you'll even illuminate the initial letter, make it something beautiful as well as functional. But that's a project for another day. For now, you return to your dusting and organizing. The afternoon wears on. You work steadily, methodically, ensuring each book is clean and properly shelved. It's not glamorous work, but it's necessary, and you take pride in doing it well. Eventually, the light begins to fade. The library grows dimmer, and you light candles to continue working. But you're starting to feel the day's efforts. Your back aches from bending and reaching, and your eyes are tired from the close work of the morning's rebinding. You decide to call it a day. You make sure the fire is safely banked, that all the candles are extinguished except one that you'll use to light your way back to your room. You lock the library door carefully and climb the stairs. In your room, you pour fresh water into the basin. It's cold again, of course, but you're used to it, and wash the day's dust from your hands and face. You change into your night clothes, simple linen that's warm enough with the pile of blankets on your bed. But you're not ready to sleep yet. You're tired, yes, but it's a pleasant tiredness, the kind that comes from a day of good work. You light your personal candle and pick up the book you're currently reading, a collection of stories from the Age of Heroes, tales of Brandon the Builder and Lan the Clever and other legendary figures. You settle into bed, pulling the blankets up around you, and read by candlelight. The stories are familiar, you've read them before, but they're comfortable, like visiting old friends. The heroes have their adventures, overcome their challenges, achieve their destinies. Outside, the wind picks up slightly, howling around the tower. But you're warm and safe, surrounded by stone walls that have stood for thousands of years and will stand for thousands more. Your eyes grow heavy. The candle flickers. You set the book aside carefully and blow out the flame, plunging the room into darkness. Sleep comes easily, as it always does after a day of honest work. Tomorrow you'll wake and return to the library, continue the rebinding, start work on the family tree, help whoever comes seeking knowledge or stories or simply a quiet place to read. This is your life, small, quiet, devoted to the preservation of words and knowledge. In a world where swords and politics often seem to matter most, it might seem like an insignificant existence. But lying there in the darkness, listening to the ancient stones of Winterfell settling around you, you know better. Knowledge endures. Stories matter, and someone needs to be the keeper of books. You close your eyes and let sleep take you, content in your small corner of the great castle. When you wake the next morning, you realize you never had dinner. Your stomach is making its displeasure known, growling insistently. You must have been more tired than you thought, falling asleep while reading and sleeping straight through the evening meal. You dress quickly. The room is cold, autumn definitely giving way to something harsher, and make your way down to the kitchens. The castle is just waking up, and the corridors are quiet except for servants beginning their morning rounds. Nan is already in the kitchens, of course, along with several others preparing for the day's cooking. When she sees you, she shakes her head. "Missed dinner last night," she says. "It's not a question. I fell asleep reading. That's what happens when you spend all day with nothing but books for company." But she's already preparing a plate for you, cold meat pie from last night, cheese, bread, and an apple. Eat that, and don't skip meals, you're thin enough as it is. You thank her and take your breakfast back to the library. It's become your habit to eat there in the mornings, enjoying the solitude before the castle fully wakes. The library is cold when you enter, and you build up the fire before settling at your desk with your food. As you eat, you think about the day ahead. The rebinding project needs finishing. The family tree needs starting. And there's always the general maintenance, keeping things organized, helping anyone who needs access to the records or books. You're halfway through your meat pie when you hear a commotion outside. Voices raised, not in anger but in excitement. You set down your food and move to the window. In the courtyard below, you can see people gathering. Something's happening, though you can't tell what from here. Curiosity gets the better of you. You abandon your breakfast and make your way down to see what's going on. The courtyard is filling with people, all looking toward the main gate. You spot a servant you recognize and move to her side. "What's happening?" you ask. "Travelers," she says. "From the south by the look of them, quite a large party." Indeed, as you watch, riders are coming through the gate. A dozen of them at least, well-armed and well-mounted. In their midst is a carriage, painted and decorated, someone of importance, clearly. The riders dismount and servants rush forward to take their horses. The carriage door opens and a woman emerges, middle-aged, beautifully dressed in Southern fashion, with her hair elaborately styled. Behind her comes a younger woman, perhaps your age, who looks around Winterfell with wide eyes. You don't recognize either of them, but from the way the castle stewards are hurrying forward, bowing and scraping, they're clearly highborn visitors. Who are they? You wonder aloud. "Don't know," your companion says, "but they'll want rooms and food and who knows what else. Going to be busy today, I expect." She hurries off to help with preparations, and you stand there for a moment longer, watching. The visitors are being escorted toward the Great Hall, where presumably Lord Stark will greet them properly. It's none of your concern, really. Highborn visitors come and go, and they rarely have need of a librarian. You should return to your work. But as you turn to go, you notice the younger woman looking your way. Your eyes meet for just a moment, and she smiles. A quick, friendly expression that transforms her nervous face into something warmer. Then she's swept along with the rest of the party, and you head back to the library, wondering who she is and why they've come to Winterfell. You return to find your breakfast cold, but you eat it anyway. Nan's right, you shouldn't skip meals, and then settle down to work on the rebinding. You're so close to finishing now, just a few more pages to reattach. The work absorbs your attention, and you don't notice the passage of time until you hear footsteps on the library stairs. You look up to find Maester Luwin entering, and with him is the young woman from the courtyard. "Ah, good," Maester Luwin says. "I was hoping you'd be here." He gestures to the young woman. "This is Lady Janna Manderley from White Harbor. Lady Janna, this is our librarian." You stand and curtsy awkwardly. You're not used to dealing with nobility. "My lady." She curtsies back, which surprises you. "Please, just Janna. I'm not used to all the formality." She has a pleasant voice, warm and slightly nervous. "The Maester says you maintain the library here." "I do, my Janna. I was hoping I might spend some time here during our visit. I love books, and I've heard Winterfell has quite a collection." "You're welcome anytime," you say, meaning it. Someone who loves books is always welcome in your domain. "Is there something particular you're interested in?" Her face lights up. "Everything, really, but especially histories of the North. White Harbor has some records, but they're incomplete. I've been trying to piece together the history of the Manderley family's arrival from the South. Now you're interested too. The library has several sources that might help. Let me show you." You spend the next hour pulling books and scrolls, showing Janna what Winterfell has to offer. She's clearly knowledgeable. She knows what she's looking for and asks intelligent questions. It's refreshing to talk with someone who shares your passion. Maester Luwin watches with approval for a while, then quietly takes his leave. You and Janna barely notice, absorbed in discussing historical sources and how to verify conflicting accounts. "This is wonderful," Janna says finally, looking at the pile of materials you've gathered for her. "May I really use all of these?" "Of course. You can work at any of the tables. Just please be careful. Some of these documents are quite fragile." "I will, I promise." She settles at the table closest to the fire, carefully opening the first book. "Thank you so much. I think I'm going to enjoy my stay here." You return to your own work, but you find yourself watching Janna as she reads. She's completely absorbed, occasionally making notes on a piece of parchment she's brought with her. It reminds you of yourself, the way you can lose yourself in books. The afternoon passes pleasantly. You finish the rebinding, the last page attached, the book looking nearly as good as new. You set it aside with satisfaction and begin gathering materials for the family tree project. At some point, servants bring food and drink, bread and cheese and ale. You and Janna eat at your respective tables, both too absorbed in your work to make conversation. It's a comfortable silence, the kind that only exists between people who understand the joy of research. As evening approaches, Janna reluctantly closes her books. "I should go," she says. They'll be expecting me at dinner, but may I come back tomorrow? Anytime, you assure her. The library is always open. She smiles, that same warm smile from the courtyard. Thank you. It's been so lovely to meet someone who understands. Most people think I'm strange for preferring books to banquets. You're not strange, you say firmly. Or if you are, then so am I, she laughs. Then we'll be strange together. After she leaves, you tidy up, returning the books she used to their proper places. But you leave the materials you gathered for her on her table. She'll be back tomorrow, clearly, and it will save time to have everything ready. You're about to close up for the evening when Arya appears again. Do you have more books about warrior women? She asks without preamble. You smile. I do. Come on, let me show you. You spend a pleasant half-hour helping Arya find what she needs. Accounts of various shield maidens, a story about a woman who disguised herself as a man to fight in a war, even a treatise on female warriors from across the narrow sea. These are perfect, Arya says, her arms full of books. Can I take them to my room? Of course, just bring them back when you're done. She promises she will and darts off, somehow managing to run even while carrying a stack of books. You close up the library for the evening, make your way to the Great Hall for dinner. You're not missing another meal, and then return to your room. It's been a longer day than usual, more eventful, and you're tired. But it's a good tired. You've finished a project, started a new one, helped 2 different people find what they needed. That's what the job is about, really. Not just preserving books, but connecting them with the people who need them. You change into your night clothes and climb into bed with your own book. But before you start reading, you think about Janna and her research, about Arya and her fascination with warriors, about all the knowledge contained in the library downstairs. Books are powerful things. They preserve the past, inform the present, inspire the future. And you get to be their guardian, their keeper, the person who ensures they're there when someone needs them. It's a small role in the grand scheme of things, but lying there in your tower room, warm beneath your blankets while the wind howls outside, you wouldn't trade it for anything. You read for a while The Age of Heroes, always The Age of Heroes, until your eyes grow heavy. Then you set the book aside, blow out your candle, and let sleep take you. Tomorrow will bring more work. More books to repair, more knowledge to preserve, more people to help. And you'll be ready for it, grateful for another day in your library, in your tower, in the ancient stone walls of Winterfell. The end.